Yo, welcome back to the Take Your Pick podcast channel. I'm your host, Nick, and today we are going to talk about George Pickens and his top 5 wide receiver list. You will not believe who actually made the cut. But before we get into that, don't forget to hit that like button, that subscribe button, and share the video and all that other good jazz. And let's get right into it. All right, so George Pickens was doing an interview today with Pat Pete and the All Things Covered podcast. They were doing an interview today. As you all know, it's training camp going on, so they got to push out some kind of content. But regardless, they asked him who his top 5 wide receivers all time are. And of course, before he even got to that, he listed himself as the best wide receiver in the NFL. Now, that is kind of a stretch, but he is a very solid receiver. So right after he said that, he went on to name his top 5 wide receivers all time. And this list was a little wild and something really jumped out to me. So the first person on his list is the legend, Megatron, Calvin Johnson. He is number 1 on his list. Look, you can't really argue against that. Calvin Johnson, hell of a career, by far one of the best wide receivers all time. So I'm not going to give him anything on that one. Next, Randy Moss. Same thing. Legend. We literally call anytime you catch the ball over somebody, you got Moss. Like, come on, top 5 for sure. Jerry Rice was 3rd on his list. Now, again, he did say that this is his list. All right. So respect it. Jerry Rice is definitely number 1 to me. How can you not have him number 1 for sure? Jerry Rice. All-time leader in touchdowns and receiving yards and receptions. I believe it's receptions as well. The best to ever do it. Now, this is where it kind of took a little bit of a dive for me. He had Julio Jones as number 4 all-time. I couldn't really rock with that one. Right, because there's so many great receivers out there that are better and who've had a better career than Julio Jones. I mean, Larry Fitzgerald is the first person that comes to mind. Steve Smith Sr. You know, that's just 2. That's just 2. But regardless, Julio Jones has had a hell of a career and he's still an active player. Now, this is the one that really went off the rails. Michael Crabtree is number 5 on his list. And that is where that was a head scratcher for me. It didn't make any sense at all. All right, so let me just read a couple of Michael Crabtree's stats here. All right, so he played 11 years in the NFL, which that is a solid career because I think the average time in the NFL is like 4 years. So to play 11 seasons in the NFL is really impressive. All right, so he played for the 49ers, the Cardinals, the Raiders, and the Ravens, and then he ultimately ended up retiring, right? But here's the thing about it as well, is that he didn't have like an overly impressive career like at all. Okay, so he had 637 receptions. That's 73rd all time. He had 7,499 receiving yards. That is 132nd all time. He had 54 touchdowns. That is 117th all time. Like my man is not even top 70 in any statistical category. So I'm trying to figure out how he ended up getting him to be top 5. But then not only that, in his entire career, he's only had 2 seasons where he had over 1,000 yards receiving, and he was never selected to the Pro Bowl. So he doesn't really have the accolades either, right? Now, what makes it even more interesting is that it's not like he played with bad quarterbacks in his career. I mean, his time with the 49ers, he had Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick as his quarterback. So I'm trying to figure out how he could not have a Hall of Fame type career. He was great in college. I believe he's a Hall of Famer when it comes to college football, but his NFL career does not stand out. And for comparison, I know I brought up Julio Jones a little bit ago. Julio Jones has also played 11 seasons. He's still active. Like I said, he is still active. But he's had 903 receptions. That's 23rd all time. He's got 13,629 yards. That's 16th all time. And he's got 63 touchdowns. That's 73rd all time. Like, I'm still trying to figure out how Crabtree made this list. But you know what this kind of reminds me of? I don't know if you guys have seen this. This was like when the younger NBA players, these younger players, these high school athletes, they've been getting interviewed and they've all been saying that Paul George is their GOAT. Now, Paul George is a great player, but a lot of people got taken aback when these athletes are saying that Paul George is like their favorite player, like he's their GOAT. Especially when you have, so many people love LeBron, or you love MJ, or people love Kobe, or, AI. A lot of people love Steph. So for them to say Paul George, I found it interesting, but I understand. But yeah, for him to come out and put Michael Crabtree on this list, it is very interesting to me. I don't get it. I really don't get it. But hey, George Pickens, you are entitled to your opinion. Like you said, this is your list. But it really is more shameful, though, because I feel like that we wouldn't have nearly as much hate if it wasn't for Richard Sherman. You all remember what Richard Sherman did, right?
Let's send you down to the field and Aaron Andrews.
Joe, thank you so much. Richard, let me ask you the final play. Take me through it.
Well, I'm the best corner in the game. When you try me with a sorry receiver like Crabtree, that's the result you're going to get. Don't you ever talk about me.
Who was talking about you?
Crabtree, don't you open your mouth about the best. Or I'm going to shut it for you real quick. LOB.
All right, and Joe, back over to you.
All right, well, we saw.
For another NBA comparison, this actually reminds me of when Russell Westbrook was talking about Patrick Beverly, and he said, Pat Bev trick y'all, man. He'll be playing no defense. It's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. So, look, I'm not saying Crabtree was trash. I'm just saying I don't understand how George Pickens has him on his top 5 list. But since we're still going to be talking about the Steelers here, I am predicting that the Steelers are going to win at least 10 games this year and going to make the playoffs. They should have made it last year. They finished the season 9-8 after starting so bad. I mean, yes, they won the very first game with Mitch Trubisky, but then they proceeded to lose 3 straight. And then we finally got to see Kenny Pickett. Now, he struggled a little bit. It's not ideal that your first game is going to be against Buffalo, who's arguably one of the top 3 best teams in the league. That's not necessarily who you want to be playing first. And did we get destroyed? We absolutely did. But we saw a lot of positivity from him and George Pickens, and that is definitely why these two are the future. They are the future, and I'm expecting them to only be better this year. Only going to be better. They can finish, I believe they can finish second in the division. Now, that has to come with, there's a little caveat there. There's a little caveat, and that caveat is, of course, you got the Bengals and you got the Ravens. Now, you have Joe Burrow. He's already injured. He's got this calf injury. Now, I would imagine that is something that is going to be lingering throughout the season. As good as he is, that can still affect you as a quarterback. Then we have Lamar Jackson. If Lamar Jackson stays healthy, the Ravens can be number 1. But they have their own issue as well because they just got a new offensive coordinator. They're going to try to open up the pass game more because the Ravens have become a little bit more predictable. Yes, Lamar Jackson, possibly the best athlete in the NFL, but there's only so much that you can do these run options, right? You're going to have to pass the ball. So I think that is what they're aiming for. But if we can find a way to stay afloat And if one of these things tends to happen against the Ravens or the Bengals, we could get the first or second seed in the division. I honestly believe it'll happen. Bleacher Report is out here saying that we're going to finish third or we're going to have another 9-8 season. I don't see it. I see us going 10-7. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. And that's going to do it for this video here. Again, don't forget to like, comment, share, all that good jazz. And I'll see you guys on the next one.